Dr. Lee Look. He is a psychologist from Oldham County who's also an 18-year firefighter, so he is a first responder himself. He has expertise in many areas, including mental health with people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. His presentation today is called Trauma in the First Responder. So this is what he's up to.
Awesome, thank you.
I'll give it
Let
to
me
you.
turn this on, make sure this works.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that's got it, right?
Yep.
Okay, if I can be heard, that's good. I try
gotcha.
to have a pretty loud voice, but have had the flu and COVID over the last month, so it's been a trifecta or a difecta. Yeah, I'm excited though. So this is me. I'm a licensed psychological practitioner. I'm also a captain for St. Matthew's Fire, also EMT. So you guys have seen like great treatment planning stuff today and great organizational planning, and I've got all this stuff and hours of videos, and I've got about 35 minutes. So we're going to do this a little differently. I'm going to talk some about some stuff that's happened, and anything that you guys, I'm going to ask you all for some questions or some input, and I guess that's a good opportunity to give some of the stuff away. There's a lot of stuff to give away. So we'll do that. If that's not to your liking, then I'll just go back to this and give you some of that. But first, I do kind of want to know who you are. Raise show of hands. How many of you are first responders? Awesome. Okay. Clinicians. Awesome. Emergency management folks, and you can be in both camps, multiple camps, right? Community mental health, chaplains, and then no chaplain. Okay. And anything. What else is here today? I'm sorry, case managers? Okay, excellent. I used to run a case management agency in Louisville for a minute. It's hard work. What's that? Public health, thank you. So first, before I do anything, thank you guys for what you do in this community. I don't live in Western Kentucky. Goodness knows the West Kentucky Parkway at 5 in the morning is... Good night. I mean, so thank you for just driving that interstate, much less the work that you do. As they said in the previous presentation, I can't imagine what it is you guys have had to deal with. We've done it on smaller scales, but what you guys have had to deal with is it's overwhelming. So anyway, so some of the goals we have, if I were doing this whole presentation, we talk about how trauma's changed since September 11th, how it changed during the pandemic, more empathy, more awareness of trauma, the traditional responses to trauma with first responders. We're going to get into that just for a little bit. Different responses to different types of trauma, specifically cumulative trauma versus acute trauma. And I'm going to make that really clear for you guys here in a minute. I'll probably embarrass myself along the way, but we're all friends, or we will be. Talking about a person-centered approach, and I don't mean like a therapeutic orientation. I mean just how we concretely meet our people where they are, and what that means for us as clinicians or as case managers. Everybody, obviously, everybody's different. Everybody is different, but they need different things based on the kind of trauma that they've experienced. Not goals for this, right? My goal is not to trash fire, police, or EMS agencies, right? They have an impossible job. I think we can agree on that. They provide an unmanageable number of skills and services to a population that is increasingly in need. It's to expect them to care and know how to care for our mental health as their employees is a lot to ask, okay? We also don't want to trash any current strategies. They have worth, right? There is value in an EAP. There is value in informal debriefings, guys, talking around the coffee, having coffee in the morning at the picnic table outside the firehouse. If you've ever been there, you know that that's more stuff happens there. All the problems of the world are solved there. Everything is fixed there, and then they go inside and it all breaks again. Having drinks with coworkers, right? We don't encourage that necessarily, but it's what we do. We do a lot of things we shouldn't do. And we also, I'm not here to say that no one cares. Obviously people care. But what do you do about it, right? How do you manifest that into work? So I'm going to say one more thing that I want you to consider through this presentation. You can learn a lot more of an organization's priorities, not from their mission statement, but from their budget. Does that make sense? We talk all these things. This is what we believe in our people. We're going to invest in our people. We're going to get them all the care they need. We're going to get them their physicals, and we take care of their mental health and make sure that they have home-life balance. Maybe, but what does their budget say? Does the budget say we're getting chrome on the fire trucks, or does the budget say we're getting counseling for our staff? Again, nobody's doing anything intentionally to be mean or to hurt anybody, but it's what we do. So just keep that in mind as we go through this, right? We can ask our agencies, how are you monitoring our mental health? How are you training us to manage our mental health? And how are you helping me when we need help with our mental health? We talked about person-centered approach. I'm going to, okay. We just want to consider, I know. We want to consider unique circumstances and experience. All this is stuff you guys know, right? We want to empower clients to help themselves. We want to do all the other good stuff. Dignity, respect, positive regard, all the stuff you all know, right? We're going to keep doing that. And it all comes down to that one thing, meeting them where they are. That's all it comes down to, okay? Again, I'm not trying to impart therapeutic orientation. I'm just trying to talk about how we want to address specifically these first responders. And I may not have time to get to this part of it, so I know I talk fast, but when we talk about first responders post-pandemic, who's included in that list? Who would you say is included in the list of first responders? Public health, absolutely. Who else? Public health. God, the arrows you all take. Ugh. It's like we put you in a position, we train you to do this, and then we tell you you're absolutely wrong. It's unbelievable to me. EMS, absolutely. Who else? Anybody work in skilled nursing, long-term care? You ever try to staff a long-term care facility in the pandemic? Yeah. My other job is in a long-term care facility. I work with the IDD population. I run a therapy department for Cedar Lake Lodge in the Grange, and I worked in the kitchen half the pandemic because I can cook, but they didn't need therapy. They needed food first, right? What about delivery drivers, food drivers, people who work in kitchens, people that stock shelves at the grocery, right? You imagine that kid, that 16-year-old kid that's now getting hazard pay at Kroger. Do you have Kroger in Western Kentucky? Okay, Kroger in Western Kentucky. They're on the ladder stocking like the one box of Lysol wipes they've got, and 20 people for the 6 containers of Lysol, glaring at these 16-year-old kid, elbowing people out of the way. They're now hazardous workers, right? And I say this, firefighters get a ton of respect because of the uniform we put on. It's given to us. We don't have to earn it. We can lose it, but we don't have to earn it. Law enforcement, I'm really sorry. Doesn't work the same way, I don't think. But you watch the trash that get picked up for 3 days in a row, who are the real heroes? So it all ebbs and flows. So everybody is a first responder after the pandemic, and everybody experiences trauma. Every one of you on this room experiences trauma in your own specific ways. I can talk about it from an acute way in the emergency services, but this is not to exclude anybody's trauma. We all have trauma. We all need our trauma needs to be met, okay? Good, that was good talk. So why do we do what we do? And I will ask this from a first responder standpoint, but also from your clinicians, your public health, all these things. For me, I do it like you for my people, right? You do it for your people. These are my nephews, my brother. I mean, this is what we do. We can go this. We all know what first responders do. Also know the suicide risk is high. We know that. Fantastic. So just a quick definition of trauma. The lasting emotional response that often results from living through a distressing event, or I would also add a bunch of distressing events over a period of time. And we're going to talk a little bit about that cumulative trauma. What is trauma to a first responder? Let's see if this works. If it does not, well, it doesn't, it doesn't. I think it will. It worked in the dining room, so we're not that far from there.
Very close call for 3 firefighters in Dearborn, Michigan. The roof caved in. Look at this. Well, they were on top of a burning building.
I can see it really well.
They actually got out just in time.
Sorry about that.
Luckily, no serious injuries either, but a little scary. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. I can see it on my computer really well. It really is. Thank you. Man. Wow. How was that? Anyway, that was come on, Lee. I think this is my first time using a computer. No, I mean, what else do you have to do today besides watch me do this? I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. All right, let's try this one more time. There it is. All right. I've got 2 clips here. I'm only going to show the short clip. The other one is I'll send out this PowerPoint through the organizers, and you can see the clip is really good. Oh, my God. No, we're going to just skip it. We're going to skip it. Thank you. We're going to skip it. Anyway, it's a video. It's a very good video of firefighters almost falling through the roof, but getting to the parapet and being drugged back over. Here, let me demonstrate. Can you guys stand up? But it's one of those traumatic close calls, right? You guys have seen, they're all over YouTube, people with the helmet cams. There's one where a white helmet, if you don't know what a white helmet is, that's a chief, is on a roof. And if you ever have a chief on a roof, obviously there's a problem to start with. And you see the chief standing there, directing, he's got a pipe pole, and all of a sudden you see him up to here in the ceiling and waving his hands. They're all over the place. So those are traumatic events, and those things kind of build up, but that's kind of just mostly for fun. So is this trauma addressed? Do we train for it? Do we budget for it, right? Again, you can learn more of an organization's priorities, not from the mission statement, but from the budget. Another video clip, and I'm not going to show you because it's long. Okay. So here's, I've never done this before in a setting like this, so if it goes really south, it is Marcy's fault. I want to talk about acute trauma for just a moment. And I'm not at all looking for sympathy or empathy or anything like that. I just want to give you an example of something that has made this all the more clear for me. So October 1st, 2022, almost exactly 4 months ago, at 2:30 in the morning, I'm a captain on a truck company, which means we don't have any water, which is odd for a fire department. But truck companies don't have water. They do search and rescue and like roofs and break stuff. So we get called to an apartment fire. 2:30 in the morning, we smell the smoke on the way there, definitely going to be a working job. So we go with the engine, we ride first on scene. You can see it's fully involved. It is going to be all night. And I had plans to take my partner's grandson to the Bernheim dinosaur thing the next day, or Halloween thing. I was really excited. I just want to get off work, 7:45, leave, and go pick up the kiddo, because I don't have kids, but I sort of have a grandkid now, and if you had that experience in your life, I had no idea what that would be like. All you want to do is just be with that little snotty 2-year-old. And I remember when I got COVID, because I was carrying upstairs to get a bath, and he turned to me and sneezed in my mouth. I remember that, and he was kind of sick at the time, and his parents were sick, so we were keeping him, and he sneezed right in my mouth. I've got COVID now. So that's exactly when it happened. And then we took him out because we take him we like to go to our local bar and drink at night. And so we take him with us. We set him on the bar, and he eats pretzels, and then he leans over, and the first time ever in his life, he kissed my partner on her lips. First time ever. Well, now you got COVID. So now we know where we both got. So anyway, 2:30 in the morning, go to the fire, pull up. I'm the truck company. I sent 2 of my guys to throw ladders. Me and the other guy were going to go start rescuing people out of it. Bang on doors, get people out. Well, I knew which apartment the fire apartment was where it started. You can see where it started. If you've ever done this before, you know it's easy to tell. Kick the door open, it was locked, so you have to assume 2 or 3 in the morning, door's locked, fire raging, there's probably somebody in there. So my job is to search. Kick it open, it was too much fire going down a hose line, so we waited for a hose line to come up. They brought the hose line, they didn't charge it. So while we're waiting for it, the hose line starts to burn. So it burns a hole in it. I get enough water to knock the fire down. I tell my guy, stay at the door, I'm going to go search the living room. Just the living room. Search the living room, nobody's there. I see a hallway. I think I can make the hallway, it's not too involved. So I tell him I'm going down this hallway. I go down the hallway, search bedroom, bathroom, closet, nobody. Come back out, and I think the kitchen is my way out because I knocked the fire in the kitchen down. Well, the kitchen had reignited, and I was not where I thought I was. If you've ever been disoriented in a dark room, and then add a fire to it, and then anybody that's ever been a firefighter, we were in the SCBAs, what is the one thing that of course is going to happen when you're lost? Your low air alarm is going to go off, right? You had 25 minutes of air, now you have 3. So add that shit on top of all that. And so I'm a little bit disoriented. I'm a lot hot. My gloves have gotten wet. Anybody have a set of work gloves they won't throw out? How good a shape are they in? Let's get them hot and wet. See what happens. So my gloves are a little old. That part was probably my fault. And it got really, really hot. And my exit was not where I thought my exit was. So I had the choice to make, go through the kitchen, it was fully involved, and maybe be wrong and have to come back out through it, or find another way out. Well, started to get a little panicky, actually, and I thought, then the low air alarm goes off, and I'm like, oh, this is not how I want to check out, right? I'm not She's waiting for me home. The grandchild wants to go to this thing, and by damn, this is not how I want this to end. So, and I can feel my skin burning, right? If anybody's ever had an experience, you guys, I feel like some of you probably have, you can feel it start to burn, and you know that it's hard to think when your skin is burning. So, stopped for a second, took a breath, found the hallway. It was the original hallway I'd gone down. It was not fully involved. Kicked the window out. They brought me a ladder. I went down. They grabbed me off the ladder, took my coat off, or cut my coat off, ripped my gloves off, put me in the ambulance, and sent me to the hospital. So the funny part about that is I'm also a mental health professional, and so I'm in the ambulance, and I can see. I can see I'm screwed up. I'm not dying, but I'm screwed up. This is a mess. And I'm trying to talk to the guy treating me, and they're down to U of L, Route 9, right? Fast as they go. And he's IVs and I'm trying to what's going to happen, man? And he's going to take you to the hospital, Route 9, they're going to clean you up, they're going to probably give you some medicine to make the pain stop. No, what's going to happen? I've never been hurt this bad at work. What am I going to be feeling? And I said that. I said, what am I going to be feeling? He looked at me like a deer in headlights. Not a damn clue what to say to this psychologist who's burning, and all he's trying to do is just get a line started, right? And so at that point, I know this is going nowhere, so I shut up. They got me down there and treated me. They cut off all the skin on my fingers. My calves got burned real bad, but the blisters hadn't come up yet, so they didn't do much with that. And so they put all this bandaging on me, and so we're not going to admit you go in the city home, change the dressing twice a day. Well, how? Well, you can do it yourself. Well, I have 10 fingers, both my hands cut. Whatever, I just wanted to go home, I didn't care. They gave me a hefty bag of bandages and stuff. Like, this screams for this. And so I get home, and the chief brings me home because I had a little medicine. They let me drive home, look at my truck. And so he drops me off at the house, and she comes out with the baby, and he's on the front yard. I didn't call her until 6:30 in the morning. She couldn't have come. I happened at 2:30, didn't call her until 6:30. I knew she'd be pissed, right? I mean, you'd be pissed too, right? If your partner would call you, but what was I going to do? I didn't know what was happening. I couldn't use the phone. My hands were... Couldn't even... I had to get the weird chief to... Anyway. So they walk out the front yard, and we both just stare at each other because you don't know what's happening. There was no history of this, no record of it, no previous roadmap. Benjamin, the baby, when he sees his pop, he wouldn't touch me. He wouldn't touch me. I smelled like horrible smoke and looked like shit, and my hands were... I wouldn't touch me either. But I couldn't take a shower, and so for, long story short, for 70 days in a row, my partner had to change my bandages on my hands every morning, 4:30 in the morning. She goes, I had another job to go to. Can't still sit at a desk, right? So, change my bandages every day for 7 days in a row. So the first month, she had to give me a shower because I couldn't use my hands. Finally, decided to get my hands wet. If I could give you one bit of advice, this whole presentation, if you take one thing from this, to save your relationship, or preserve a relationship, or get a relationship, buy and install a bidet. 2 months before this happened, I bought and installed a bidet, and guys, I'm 100%, so very serious. It was a thing. So, same relationship. So, I got to give some stuff away. All right, anybody have a bidet? Is anybody going to get a bidet? There we go. So we do this, right, so when I talk about acute trauma, that was an acute trauma, right? Here's what I needed at the time. The fire department, it's very easy to focus on this. All the chiefs are coming out, the guys are calling, they're inviting me out to the firehouse, let me drive around, let's see the guys, let them know you're okay, coming up for dinner, let's have some chili. All the thing that fire department brotherhood is supposed to be about, right? Whatever. Anyway, it's supposed to be about. I wanted not one bit to do with it. Didn't want to see it. I love it, they're fine. I had not one interest in seeing these people. Not that they got me hurt, I got myself hurt. I did the right thing. After action report, did the right thing, should have done it, survived those spaces, have to do it again the next time. I didn't want to see it. Didn't want to talk to them, didn't want to hear their version of the story, didn't want to hear what happened to them 10 years ago, didn't want to hear them tell me how glad they are I'm coming back, I'm okay. Didn't want to see them. I wanted to see the people that I love and that love me, and most importantly, I wanted to see the people that didn't want me to go back. There's not one person in my life that wants me to go back to this job. I'm 18 years in, I gotta get to 20. I'm going back. When? I don't know, but hopefully, I don't know, hopefully it's a while yet. But when you go through this, you quickly find there is no one out there that has your best interests at heart, unless you're in mental health counseling. I happened to start with my counselor 2 weeks before this happened, and was able to carry this through, so I had a continuity of care. The only person in my life that had my best interests at heart, outside of my loved ones, is my counselor. Workers' comp, they've been great, but they're ready to need to be done. Disability wants nothing to do with me. Fire department needs to get somebody in that spot. They're paying overtime and paying premiums on my workers' comp. They love me, but come on, man. It's been 4 months. Looks like you're okay. I'm not. Instantly, I'm still wearing gloves. I can't button a shirt very well. So if I can button a shirt, I'm not going back to work. That's why the mental health counseling is so important in this acute traumatic scenario. And to have it in place prior is really the key. I do have a solution set at the end of this presentation. I will touch on that, and it kind of talks about counseling and how we want to get into it. But that's sort of my definition of the example of acute trauma, right? So there's if you're squeamish, you can turn away. Just so you don't think I'm lying. And then this, those are my boots and Ben's boots. And if, we talk about why we do what we do, and I used to think that I did what I did because one of the reasons I wanted my loved ones to be proud of me and to just be proud of what I did and that I could help people and that they like that. After this happened, I don't want to go to work. I want to be home so that he gets to be with me sometimes, right? So that's what changed overnight. Instead of me like, hey man, Uncle, like Pop's going to the firehouse and he's going to go help people. That's awesome. But there's a chance now Pop understands that he may not come home. And that's a lot to take in overnight and then a lot to give back to them. So when you talk about taking that in overnight versus in a cumulative way, that's where I think we start to see some differences. So we talk about cumulative trauma, obviously it builds up over time, it goes unnoticed. The more stressful the job, the more there's a culture of coping. And I know in all of your jobs, right, whether you're clinicians or first responders or public health or case managers or you work at the Walmart where you have to stock the shelves and people are glaring at you. There is a culture of coping. It is just what you do now, right? It's what we do. And that's kind of expected. You talk about how firefighters kind of process things. It's always with a cup of coffee or a cigarette, and they're outside and they're talking around, but the minute a chief pulls up, or the minute the counselor pulls up, or the minute anybody important pulls up, shuts up, goes away, we're fine. But there is that sort of collegial talking, but you gotta really be careful what you say, especially if you're a new guy, right? The new ones don't get the opportunity to. Is there a wasp going around? Is that freaking people out? I don't know what to do about it. I just noticed it. Somebody braver than me should do this. So I have a paramedic colleague who said this statement to me, talking about trauma. He said, I am used to blank. I'm not going to tell you what the blank was. But he said, I am used to blank. What do you think might have been in that blank? I am used to what? You're a paramedic. I am used to blank. I'm sorry? Death? You're close, yeah. What's that? Suffering, yes. I mean, all these are good job, man. Ooh. AARP guy is very good. Oh, here, you can have a bank and a first aid kit for trying to. I'm going to get hurt, man. I don't do that. So, yeah, his line to me, I was talking to him about trauma. His line to me is, I am used to dead babies. With no sense of irony. No sense of, I'm just being tough. No sense of that. That's what he said. And I believe he's a great paramedic. I go to work with my loved ones. And a paramedic is worth their weight in gold. A good one, especially. That's what he said, and that's accumulated. That didn't happen overnight. We get used to dead babies overnight. We get used to dead babies over 20 years. And what do we do about it, right? We don't have it. All right, I really want to play this clip. So It's a really short one. You guys, thank you. You guys remember the show MASH? Are you old enough to remember MASH? Okay. So you know the characters. There's Hot Lips, the charge nurse, and Hawkeye, the physician. Oh, that's good. You can go from there.
Yeah.
There you go. There's either a link or you could play it from there. How do you want to do it?
What is the link?
Yeah. Control click. Yeah, you can skip. It's fine. Look at that. All right, so this will, everything I would say, this will say it faster.
No, why? You want more of this stuff? Not for me. I'm going to scratch for the pussy. Oh, did you hear? Say what? You were killed this morning. Oh, no, how? Right in front of the chief. Gee, that's a shame. Somebody should have tied him up. Why did I don't want to stand here anyway? I'm going to wash my hair. I'll see you later. Save my water for me. Where did he go to? Nobody knows. He just strolled in there one day. Claire was speaking in. See you later. Can I get your hand on? Oh, sure. Which color do you want? Peach. Peach? Okay, I think the red is better.
Right this way. We have a lovely table for one with a view of the sea and everything. Margaret, are you staying with the floor show? The cook's going to confess.
Excuse me, please.
There you go, Ken.
Leave me alone.
What's your hurry? What's so good?
What do you want?
Oh, you look all choked up and I don't think it's the food.
I don't know what they're talking about. And anyway, none of their business.
Might help to talk. Look, 2 ears, no waiting.
Will you stop annoying me?
Fine. I thought something was bothering you and I wanted to help.
You're always trying to get into my head when there's nothing there.
Look, Margaret, sooner or later this place gets to everybody.
I don't fall over, Captain. Everything around here will be just fine. There's a little less bleeding and a lot more leadership. We need obedience. We need discipline, not this chaos. Doctors like you constantly out of uniform. Nurses who don't belong in uniform. Dogs running around loose in camp. They're getting run over by jeeps. Get out of here!
No, your emotions are all churned up. You're not doing yourself a favor keeping a court quiet. Let it out.
Let out what? There is nothing to let out. I'm not churned up. I'm not emotional. If you want to court something, don't court your mouth. Go. Will you just get out?
Listen, I saw you sneaking food to that dog all week. This morning you got run over. You trying to tell me you're not upset by that?
I've got people dying all around me. You think I get upset because a dog gets run over? Why should I get upset about a little dog?
So that is, says cumulative trauma better than I could ever explain, right? It builds up over time and then the dog dying is what makes it happen. So I've got like 5 minutes and there's two other little things I want to touch on and then I'll turn this over to the organizer. We can have a little question conversation if you'd like. Why don't first responders get help? What are some reasons you might think of? And I'm not going to worry about the slides. We'll just talk about it.
Because they're not supposed to be though.
Right. That's a very good reason. Yeah. That's the perfect reason why. There's tons of them. That's a top one.
You don't want it documented.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I got promoted if my bosses think I'm weak. Right. We had a policy for a minute at one of my old fire departments where if you were taking any prescription medications, you had to tell your battalion. Hell, I am. Take an antidepressant or anxiety and tell my battalion chief they're going to promote me to a position of leadership? Hell no. What else? You're right. Too busy working. We don't have time. Some of the other reasons, and those are all amazing reasons. Lots of councils don't have experience with the population, and first responders spend all their time explaining what it is they do. You mean you work 24 hours on and then 40 hours off? And what about next week? And what's a 3-week cycle? Do not understand it, can't figure it out. You work overtime, so that means you work 2 days in a row, and then you have 2 days? No, 2 days, 1. Do not get it. Well, what does it mean when the tones go up and everybody, you have to fill out the box? What does that even mean? So you ride an ambulance, you ride a fire truck? I don't understand. I don't understand. What's a bunker code? They don't understand either. And you have to do that every time, right? And so unless your counselor really is focused and retains what you're doing, you spend all your time getting them up to speed. Counselors have to be able to handle grotesque descriptions. In my first EMT course in Los Angeles, the only joke this one guy ever told was the difference between on a dead body, the difference between an O or a Q, right? And an O on a dead body is this, and a Q is that. I remember that 25 years ago. So you got to be able to handle gross stuff like that. Like when I worked at a restaurant, I was a bartender and a chef. I'd get there early, we would talk, and he would say, "Man, come on, give me something gross, give me something gross." He would love like car wreck stories and all that stuff. People kind of get off on that, but that's not really their job. They're supposed to be, here's a statement I love, don't be curious about the job, be curious about the person. In law enforcement, if you go to counselors, your counselor has to be comfortable with a firearm, probably. Some counselors aren't. It puts people really on edge, as law enforcement probably understands. I don't have to tell you that. The other thing I want to talk about is what's already in place for us, right? Your annual physical, right? Every first responder gets an annual physical. How many times in an annual physical do you hear the doctor say, Captain, look, had any terrible calls over the past year? Captain, look, you make that semi-wreck last month where all those kids died? Captain, look, how's your home life? Captain, look, you drinking more now than you used to compared to last year? Captain, look, you notice any problems sleeping over last year? They don't ask that. It's not their job to ask that. But if they're not asking it, who is? Well, you get the EAPs, right? We all have EAPs. Nothing wrong with an EAP, but how often are they utilized? Come in, they say, we got all these services, we can help you with financial health, and mental health, and physical health, and dietary, and get your will done, and all these things the EAP can do. Nobody uses. Take your retainer, and go back, and that's why they have 50 fire departments on their list, because they know they're not going to get used. Nothing wrong with an EAP if you use it. We have those informal conversations around the coffee table, the kitchen table, the picnic table. That's something that's there for us. Debriefings by outside agencies, right? So you have a bad run, semi-wreck, a bad fire. The outside agency comes in, they talk about how do you feel, what do you do, and then it's all we ever see. I would argue for acute trauma, like the hands, I don't want that. God, no. And for cumulative trauma, it doesn't happen. Right? The thing with Hot Lips and Hawkeye. No one's coming up to Hot Lips every 3 weeks and saying, it's been a rough 3 weeks, tell me about your mental state. Because that's just not done. Not that there's time or money or check your budget. It's not there. So what do? And I'm going to do 2 minutes on what one option is. In the military, there's a thing that they do in war now called embedded journalists. It creates a bond between the soldiers and the journalists. It creates trust. It creates a sense of camaraderie. It has its downsides, right? There's the question of bias and stuff like that. But in general, embedded journalism seems to be a positive thing for the military and for us, the consumer of the news. Let's call it 17 years ago, we did an experiment in our fire department where we brought in a counseling agency, and they rode on the trucks with us every Saturday for 3 hours. Hung out, helped us do chores, rode the trucks. They were pretty well received. They were, kind of lukewarm sometimes, but they did it for a year. And they just became one of us. Oh, Jim's going to be here today. Oh, Karen's going to be here today. Okay. We got to the point they were just there. They were just there, hung out, watching football or whatever it was we were doing. After they'd been there a year, one of our staff killed himself. And we were shocked, obviously shocked. But we knew who was coming to help us because they'd been with us for a year. We didn't have to call an outside agency. We didn't have to have people that had to introduce themselves. Jim got out of bed at 2 in the morning, came to our fire department, and we all sat around and talked. And he got us through the night. Now, it took all that time for them to get used to us. But that embedded therapist model saved us when we needed it most. So, a brief picture of a much bigger response to that. So I'm going to take just a second now. I know it's not all over the place, but this is more fun for me, but it's more fun for you. I will give my contact information to the organizers, and if you guys want to talk more or do more on this topic, I'm pretty passionate, as you can tell. And I've got 18 months to retire, so should have some time coming up. I did have some scenario work I thought I would do, but we're kind of out of time. If there's any questions or things that you disagree with, I'd love to know what you disagree with, or what experiences you had that maybe counter or can add to my list of stuff that I can talk about the next time. I'll change your name, especially this one. Is there anything that you'd like to have heard me touch on or that you want more of? And I'll stay around afterwards if you want to talk about it in public. I know everybody's about to sore probably. It's been a great long day, but I don't want to keep you longer than Marcy said we're going to keep you. Oh, I've got more to give away. How about this? Let's find a way. What is another doctor's name from the show MASH besides Hawkeye? No, Hawkeye Pierce. Trevor John. What else? Rhymes with E-May Money Mutt. Thank you, BJ Hunt. Charles, yes, Charles Winchester. Very good. What about, so I was going to talk about September 11th for a minute. There's a 10-minute clip of Jon Stewart, who is sort of a comedian, satirist, who goes in front of Congress with survivors of September 11th and spends 10 minutes raking Congress over the coals. It's the best 10 minutes of video ever in the history of YouTube. You should watch it. It was in my presentation, but I didn't take 10 minutes for that. It'll be in a link when I send out the PDF to the folks here. Please take a moment to watch it. I guess again, for me, I'll bring Marcia. We'll give all the stuff away before you guys go.